Friend, I am so glad that you are here. Can you believe that we are in season 4? It's just so exciting. And to know that people are listening not just in America, but also in Canada, the UK, into Europe, and Australia, and then beginning to listen in English parts of Africa is just so powerful. Know that you are truly part of an international conversation. And as we will be bringing in Susan Fisch Good, she has lived overseas just like I have, and our conversation will for sure have an international touch to it. Excited about that. One of the things that I have been doing over the last since we relocated almost a year ago, has been doing a really deep dive on what anxiety looks like, and then a little bit differently, what stress looks like. And in that space, learning that there is a 10-second solution. From the point that we feel stress, we know that that stimuli is coming in. We know that we are feeling uncomfortable about things. Maybe our stomach starts to turn, maybe our hands get sweaty. In that space, there's this 10-second solution, things that we can do during that time that can help the catecholamine, all of those hormones, the biggest one being adrenaline, to not start flowing. And if it doesn't flow, then we don't have the secondary one of the glucocorticoids that flow later, of which cortisol is the highest one of those hormones. And so as I share this with you, I just want you to know that I have created a class, and I just want to share a tiny bit with you before we get started with this. I am so excited to share with you that right now the doors are open for From Stressed to Best. You can absolutely be doing what you're doing in any capacity that you are in, and learn to take the information that you are getting, the signals that you are getting, that stress is going to come in and take over your life. You can learn how to actually sense those coming on, and then in those 10 beautiful seconds that we have before all of the stress hormones begin to flow, you can actually do something in that time. I'll be teaching this and so much more in this class, From Stressed to Best. You will find the link in the bio. I look forward to seeing you there. So excited to be able to share this. And today is June 5th. It's a Thursday. Maybe it's the 6th. And then tomorrow is going to be the last day. The June 7th is the last day that this class for this particular group is going to be closing. The doors will be closing for that. So if you are interested, I do encourage you to jump into that space and find out more about it. I am so pleased to bring Susan in. Susan is somebody that when we relocated, I was looking forward to meeting her. I had heard so much about her. And Susan, it's just a delight. Every time I see you, this just feeling of my heart just expands and uplifts. And it's just lovely to have you back on the show, friend.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. This is exciting.
It is exciting. So you grew up internationally, where English wasn't necessarily the language that you spoke everywhere that you went. What are some of your observations about the difference between translation and interpretation?
I think, I'm not sure how our brains work exactly, but our brains, I learned another language in kindergarten, so it was easier. It's translating doesn't always get it. Interpreting, you have to maybe change some of the words so that it fits the syntax of the language you're speaking.
Yes.
I have worked as a court interpreter, and I'm not really sure how it happens, but your brain just switches back and forth, and it's really cool.
It is really cool. As a court interpreter, what were some of the things that you noticed meeting people that you had never met before, and knowing that the information that you would be translating, interpreting for them was really important for them to fully comprehend? What were some of the cues, some of the things that you got or that you used during that time to make sure that the message that you were sharing was the one that they were receiving?
I really had to watch closely to their body language, make sure they understood what I was saying, make sure I was being accurate, and making sure I found the right words, especially the legal terms. I had to learn the legal terms because I didn't know them in English either as well. So I had to learn in both languages. But I think the most important thing was letting the person I was interpreting for feel
Mm.
comfortable with me and building kind of a trust, which is
Yes.
hard to do in a short period of time, but putting them at ease.
Mhm. And then culturally, because your second language or your first language, depending on how you want to talk about it, is Spanish. And so, are there cultural things that you found that were also appropriate, but more eye contact, less sitting across from the person, sitting next to them? Were there pieces that you just so naturally do and did that would be something for people who are considering and thinking about the differences? Even if everybody's speaking the same language, there is still, for me, a difference between translating the concept, the idea, and then receiving the interpretation of what that is. So, were there cultural things that you found to be things that you were aware of or that you tried to use as an ally?
Um, In Spanish, there's so many different dialects, and I'm very, very fortunate that I grew up in South America, Central America, and in the Caribbean. So I learned a lot of the different dialects, and there's different words you use for different things. So I could pick up. I was very blessed that I could pick up where they were from by their use of words and try to incorporate their dialect into it. I mean, it's not always possible, and some words are just universal. But it was, I really love that job. It's very, very hard, but you use your brain and you work really hard, and then it's over. You don't have to bring anything home with you, which was really nice.
That is really, really nice. And then to contrast with that, with you being a teacher and now an author, where I would think that as you are getting new ideas for your blog and concepts, that you are bringing those things or you are living with those ideas at home as well.
Oh, I'm just having a blast. This is so much fun. I mean, I love teaching. Teaching is wonderful. You
Mhm.
use your brain, but you have always are doing research. And as an author, I'm always doing research and coming up with new ideas. And it's just it's stimulating, and I find it exciting. And each time I open one door, then a different door opens of different ideas or contacts with other people. It's really wonderful.
Did you always want to be an author, Susan?
I never really thought about it. I've always kept journals. I've kept diaries since I was probably 9 or 10, and I've always written things down. But, I never really thought about it until COVID hit and I got sick, and I started looking for materials for my students, and I wasn't finding things that I thought were suitable or interesting. And I started pondering about, that's my word for this year, ponder,
I like
about
that.
different ideas. And I thought, well, I can do this. And so then now I've been doing all the legwork of taking classes and studying and learning everything there is. And I just love it.
Mm, that is so beautiful. Can you take us through a little bit of how you prepare for your blog? You have this incredible blog where you pull out things that you wrote at different ages, right? And then you pair it with pictures from your family album and or other pictures if you need to fill in. And then at the end, kind of give a little bit of a recap or a little bit more information. What's your process that you go through as you prepare for your next vlog?
Oh, this is so fun. I have my diary. I found my diary last year. I found a whole box of diaries, and this one is from 1972 when I was 14, and this one was in Nicaragua, and that was a really powerful year. So much happened that year. So I started out with January 1st, and then when I start writing and I mention people, in a way, it feels like I'm honoring them. Like when I mention the teacher, I'm honoring that teacher, and I remember stories about them. The journal, my diary, just writes down the basics. It's bare bone. I'm writing it late at night. I'm tired, and my grammar was terrible, and my English structure was not the best since I learned to read and write in Spanish first. But it works for like a puzzle. I mentioned like the one I'm working on right now. I mention how there was so much volcanic dust. And then I started thinking about that there's two volcanoes in Nicaragua that were pretty active. One was Cerro Negro and one was Momotombo. And so then I started doing research, and then I try to remember incidents about it, and I consult my brother and sister, because I remember vividly driving up on a Jeep to part of the one volcano and then looking down on it. My sister doesn't have any recollection of that. My brother remembers some, but we can't. So then I'll call other people that I grew up with and consult. So that's just how it happens. And it's really, for me, it's like putting a puzzle together.
Mm. It also sounds like it gives you the opportunity to be connecting in with people, a purpose for connecting in with them and having these conversations come up and keeping it fresh for today, but also being able to go back and look at the different things that happen geographically, things that were happening geologically, but also things that were happening in your own timeline.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. Like I'll mention an incident that happened. I think in one of the blogs I mentioned Nixon went to China, and so that's like putting history alive.
Right.
Or mention things about different teachers. And when I think of one thing, it might not have been mentioned in the diary, but it brings back other memories. And then I talk to different people and they have a different idea about it, or they'll share pictures with me. It's reconnected me with a lot of people, and I feel so lucky.
That is so amazing. You referenced earlier COVID and then getting sick, and the sickness was not COVID. It was other, right? And do you find that this work that you are doing now with the blog is part of that because you survived not having hair once, but twice, and are so vibrant and healthy? Do you feel like your blog is almost a celebration also of this beautiful long journey that we call life?
I have so much gratitude. One of my dearest friends called me the queen of gratitude, and I am. I'm just so grateful. I was affected with cancer twice in 2016 with non-Hodgkins lymphoma, large B cell, which was a very aggressive type. I did 8 rounds of chemo, I did radiation, and we thought it was gone. And the doctor said, if you can make it to 5 years. Well, I made it 4.5 years, and it came back with a vengeance. And that was April of 2020, right in the midst of COVID. So it was very scary, but things worked out, and I was able to have a transplant, a CAR T cell transplant at Vanderbilt Hospital, which had been doing it. I'm not sure how long, but there was a well-oiled machine, and they took such good care of me, and knock on wood, things are going well. I feel good and life is good.
Yes. I have this beautiful memory of us running into each other for the Advent tea. We were both at this event, and it was really good news that day. And we both giggled and laughed and took a picture as a memory marker that you had gotten such good news that day. And I have just goosebumps right now as I think about that, just how good news just impacts our full being, right? In such a good ways. Yeah. So how, in the idea of gratitude, Susan, do you keep a gratitude journal? Do you have a methodology that you use or a formula, morning and evening, or do you just allow it to come from that spring of your heart?
I allow it to come from the center of my heart. But I think what happens is I think every day when I wake up, I just thank God I'm alive. And I thank God for everything that I have. And I think of all the things I'm grateful for, and that just fills me up more. I mean, there's always bad things happening,
Right.
but I try to weigh out. I do write in a journal every night, and I write what, things I'm grateful for. And I try to go to sleep thinking about the things I'm grateful for. And I wake up with that. I mean, we can always find things we're grateful for, whether it's, the nice comfy bed we have or the food we have. There's so much, because there's so many people that don't have those things that we consider every day. To them, it's a luxury.
Yes. I remember listening to Joe Vitale speak, and he was on the movie The Secret, and him talking about being at a library. And at that time, he was without a home, and had been challenged to be grateful. And he sat there and thought, what in the world am I grateful for? And looked at his hand, and he had a little broken pencil in it and a piece of paper. And he said, I am thankful. I am grateful. I'm going to start at this with this little tiny pencil, this piece of paper. This is where I am starting with gratitude. And so I really do believe that we have choices, maybe hundreds of thousands of choices a day. I don't know, a lot, right? What do we wear? What do we eat? How much do we eat? What temperature do we want it to be? All of these different things. And then we have all these other choices about how we look at things and how we interpret things. And if we choose to give people the benefit of the doubt or not, and that all of those things come from what we value and what our belief system is. And so I really appreciate you just allowing that come from the wellspring, that center of your being. And I would think that perhaps you've trained yourself to do that. I don't know that maybe some personalities might find it more easy, or that they look towards that than others. But it's definitely a skill that can be learned by anybody.
Oh, definitely. And I think it is a choice. You can always look at things. I remember there was a fellow teacher in a different school that was diagnosed with cancer the first time that I was diagnosed. And she didn't tell anybody. She just said, okay, I'm going to die. And she refused treatment, and she died. I think we have a choice. I mean, we can't control so many things, but we can be grateful for the things we do have and we can control.
Yes.
One exercise that if I'm having a really bad day is I start listing all the things I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. You can be grateful for, that your feet work, that you're breathing okay, or the sun is out. There's always, you can make a list. It's amazing if you sit down and just start listing and try to have a goal of 100 things.
Right. And to begin to notice that we have this thing in our brain where we are always looking. It's called confirmation bias, that what we believe that we start to look for. And people will say, I went and I bought this red Honda, and all of a sudden I see them everywhere, and they didn't see them other places before. But that's that confirmation bias, that the decision that I've made is such a good decision. Everybody should have the same decision, right? And so when that confirmation bias begins to happen for us naturally, using that as we begin to look for things that we are grateful for and allowing those to expand, it is pretty amazing how all of a sudden we'll be eating something and go, oh, there's that vegetable that I love so much in whatever that you are eating at a restaurant. And so such a beautiful piece of that. You, friend, are getting ready to go on an international trip. And I would just love for you to share a little bit why you continue to travel this amazing globe and what it is about international travel that calls you.
I think I look at it as an adventure. My parents, when we moved around a lot, they would always say, okay, we're on a new adventure. So I think they helped with the framework. And I think it's also a muscle, you use it or you lose it. And I love meeting new cultures. We're going to Africa, and I've never been to that part of the world. And I think it's just exciting to meet new people, new customs, and see how people live. And just, I'm excited and nervous, which is kind of fun.
That is.
I don't know what to expect. I know a little bit, but
sure.
I'm open.
So in your experience, because your parents were both in travel, do you find it easier to book in with a travel agency, or are you somebody who's like, oh, I've got this, let me just go ahead and, book all the different pieces to things?
Now, this one we're going with a professor at a university here, and he is from in the area where we're going. So he's taking a group of 20 people, and I really love that. I love going on a trip where I just have to show up.
Yes.
I don't have to do all the planning.
Right.
But if I have to, I can. But it's a luxury. I went with one of my dearest friends. We went to This was several years ago when I was still working full time, and I just had to show up, and it was so much fun.
Yes.
So
Yes. And then do you have things that you are really careful to have in your bag that your carry-on that, or a certain way that you choose to pack your carry-on, or a certain pair of shoes that you carry in your carry-on as you are doing international travels? And you're not the first person I've asked this of, but because our audience is an international audience and so many of them do travel, I find these tidbits to be so incredibly helpful for other people as they are thinking about how can I best get from point A to point B.
I think you have to be really careful. I have a thing that I wear inside around my inside my shirt that I
Mhm.
put my passport and my any important documents.
Yes.
I also have a special. I don't know. They used to call them fanny packs. I have one that lays flat in my clothes that I can stick other things in. I have a purse that I carry that
Mhm.
I keep it. I don't wear any expensive jewelry. I
Right.
try to wear wear the heaviest shoes on the plane because now I'm trying to, you want to pack with as little as possible. So
Yes.
I'm doing a carry on, and you're limited on what you can take. So finding, like solid deodorant or solid sunscreen, because you can't take liquids anymore. And then, layers. I always
Mhm.
have something that you can cover up with. I get cold. Um, I also am bringing, a mask because I still have, my immunities aren't the best. And I try to, the air thing in the airplane, I try to aim it down on me. So that's supposed to be very filtered.
Yes.
Um, and
Yes.
just relax, go with the flow because things are always delayed. And things, you just have to go with the flow.
I remember one of my international flights that I must have been in middle school, early high school, and just remember getting off the plane. We had gone from the US into Belgium, so quite a long transatlantic
Mhm.
flight. And my feet just hurt. And I thought, why are my feet hurting? Well, I had swollen, right? And I had tightened, I had put them on very tight that morning. And so since that time, I've been really careful to keep my laces loose.
Mhm.
And or I carry an extra pair of just fuzzy socks that I
Mhm.
wear. And if I do happen to get cold, that helps me. It's a comfort thing, right? On those long
Mhm.
flights, I want to find things that I enjoy fabrics. I don't want to be wearing all polyester because it's not a fabric that my skin goes, woohoo.
It's
So
itchy.
yes, yes. And so I look for those kinds of things that are very calming for me. And I almost always wear long sleeves on a flight, just because I don't know who I'm going to be next to. And if I'm in the middle seat, who knows, right? And so those are just little pieces. And sometimes I get pretty hot. It's a light one that I wear often. But that's just also been something that I have chosen to do. And our daughter said, hey, why don't you guys get TSA pre? And I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know how much of a time saver that's going to be here in America. And we got to the airport just a few days ago, and early, like 4:30 in the morning. And the regular line was more than 40 minutes long, easily. And TSA pre, we were all the way through in less than 15 minutes. And I thought, okay, I really understand the reasoning for this to be able to, and we were able to, to do the TSA pre, take the time and effort to make that happen. But that felt really, really good to know that we didn't have to wait in line as long.
Yes, yeah, we also have the TSA. I haven't gotten the global entry, but I
Yeah.
heard of an app that my son has used and it has worked, and it's called Mobile Passport Control until I can get the global
Oh,
entry. I'm going to try that. They say you download. It's called Mobile Passport
sport.
Control, and but I do want to get the global entry because that makes things so much easier too.
Yes. Yes. And I think finding these different things that we're able to do while we're traveling that make the experience potentially easier. On
Mm.
this flight that we just came from, we chose to, the night before as I was packing, I said, I just want, even my carry-on, I just want to go ahead and check it because we can. and
Mhm.
chose to do that. So I just had a backpack with things that I don't want to have in the carry-on. And my husband was like, "You're going to do that? I'm going to do the same thing." And so it was super easy. We weren't trying to get stuff out of the overhead bins. It was just such an easy flight. Now, not every flight's going to be like that. And I like what you said, Susan, about choosing to wear your heaviest shoes, because you can, right? As you go through, and saving that weight space for other things as well.
Yeah, and I like what you said. I have some yoga slippers that I pack for long
Mm,
trips and put those on and, have heavy socks 'cause I'm not sure how they clean the floors and
I don't
stuff.
know. Yes.
And I always carry also wipes to wipe down,
Mm,
the airplanes are clean, but just
right.
for my own sake, I wipe everything down, and
Yeah.
then I print out puzzles from the local newspaper and bring those, and
Ah,
then I fill those out, and then when I'm done with them, I can just, recycle them or something. I don't have to
yes.
carry a big book.
I've
Um,
also found having a piece of paper, actually, I usually carry about 3 sheets of paper with me with a pen for just whatever thoughts happen to come up. It's not that I can't pull my phone out and do it that way, but I just do find that and research has shown when we use our hand to write ideas or thoughts out, that something different happens in our brain. And
mhm.
I like that. And I like that it's a positive something different. And so
Yes,
that's
I
also
do that too, and I always carry a pen because sometimes it's hard to and I bring a pencil for my puzzles. I guess I'm not super
yeah,
confident, so I can erase, but, a pen works because a pencil, the points break and stuff, but,
yes.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to come right back and share more amazing things that are going on.
Thank
Hi, I'm Sarah Stockham. Recently, we were doing some renovation work, and as we were doing all of the decorating, the color blue, specifically cobalt, kept showing up for me in different areas in different ways. And I thought, what I really want is a signature piece that is in cobalt. So I went to Glass Arts Collective and found this amazing piece. I absolutely love it. In fact, when it arrived, my husband wanted it. It is so beautiful. It's nice and heavy. It was perfectly packaged. So when it came, there was no concern at all about if it was going to show up all right or not. I love that it's handmade. I love that it's unique. And I invite you to go to the glassartscollective.com and go shopping. Pick something up for yourself. Pick up some gifts for others. I know that you will enjoy how beautiful the work is. I am so excited about this conversation that we're having with Susan Fisch Good. It's not every interview person that I invite back on the show, but as we began looking at the people that we got so much response from previous shows, Susan was our top number one. And so it's so easy, obviously, to have another conversation with her, but also to know that you guys are listening in and that you are responding in such incredible, beautiful ways, that you find her to be so effervescent, just like we do. The whole team is so excited that you are here, Susan, with us for another conversation. Friend, as you are thinking about the next 4 decades of your life, what are some things that are important for you to put out there as goals?
Um, I think it's very important to stay connected to people, to be connected with my family, and watch I mean, I don't think that far ahead. I try to stay in the present and just enjoy each day. But I do look forward to the future, to future grandchildren, future members of the family, reconnecting with people, um, and writing. I'm excited about writing, getting my books published. I'm excited doing the blog. Life has a lot to offer, but we have to look for it.
Oh, it's so true. Susan, tell us more about publishing, because you have been writing and that you are getting published. And we want to hear not just how you are doing that, but also where we can get a hold of the books that you are creating.
Well, the books are not published yet. Right now, I'm in the process of looking for it. I want to go the old-fashioned way, and I'm not eager to self-publish, so I'm going the traditional way, and I'm looking for an agent and then to put out my books. I have 4 bilingual children's books written, and they're about experiences that I had growing up. One is about my first day of school in Colombia when I was 5, and I had already been to kindergarten in the United States, so I felt like I knew everything, but their school year is different. We in the United States, we end like in May or June. They don't end till like December or January, and they start their new year. So I did like 6 months of new kindergarten, and it was like a total shock because I didn't understand a word the teacher was saying, and I was the only one that didn't speak Spanish. I was the foreigner, so that was it was very special, but it was very scary. And I would, as a teacher, I've worked with ESL, and I would want to share that life it's hard, but when you're in a new situation, you just need to hang in there and be open to learning and connecting with people. And then I've written another story about when we lived in Colombia and we had a bad invasion, because my mom, I was my mom's interpreter. She never really mastered Spanish, so I'd go with her to the market, and she loved bargains, and she got this bargain on a whole rack of bananas. And anyway, to make a long story short, our house ended up infested with bats, and it's really funny.
With bats?
Yes.
Wow.
Based on a true story. And then we had to figure out how to get them out of the house and not hurt them.
Right.
And then another story takes place in Nicaragua, and it's about one of my best friend. She was terrified of doctors, and she still is. Some things don't change. But her mom bribed me to go with her to the doctor. And when we got there and she found out she's getting a shot, she ran away, and I had to chase after her. So, and then I wrote another story. My parents, my mom was Roman Catholic. My dad was Jewish. He was a Holocaust survivor. And when I was little and we lived in the States, I would go with my dad to the synagogue on Saturday, and Sunday I'd go to the church with Mom. We were being exposed to both religions. And I write about my first time going with my dad to the synagogue with my little brother. So, and I happened to take a bunch of marbles with me, my favorite toy. So you can imagine it was embarrassing for my dad. Funny story. All my stories, I hope they make me laugh. They might not make other people laugh, but I have fun writing them. So that's a good thing.
Beautiful. When you are published, we so want for you to come back to tell us.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And I really respect that you want what you call the old-fashioned way of getting someone to help you in that process. I think that's such a valuable way of publishing. And there's a piece of it that can take longer. When you self-publish, you can go a little bit faster. But in that process of it taking longer, there can be also more pieces that happen advertisement-wise and those kinds of things also to get a wider spread, a wider audience that's reading right away. And that can be very, very helpful.
Yes, I hope so. But the main reason I'm writing is I did a workshop, I think it was last year, and in this workshop, the presenter was saying, we all have stories. And in the olden days, we used to we'd get in big family reunions and we'd talk and we'd share these stories and they'd be passed on. But nowadays, our nuclear families are smaller and we're spread out. So if
Yes.
we don't tell our stories, they
Mhm.
die with us. And I have lots of stories inside me that I want to share, especially with my
Yes.
children. And
Yes.
they might not be interested in my stories right now, but when they get older, they will, you know.
Mhm. Yes.
Um,
I think when you shared that thought with me, Susan, soon after we moved here, that just opened up for me a different way of looking at what I'm doing here with the show, Simply Sarah, because in some ways, some of the people I'm talking to, I'm not sure that they have been interviewed by other people, and I'm not sure that their families are capturing their stories. And it's just makes my heart so happy to know that we've gotten at least a part of their life, or at least them sharing a part of their life. And I would be so thrilled. My dad's been gone for over 14 years. I would be so thrilled for somebody to say, hey, we just found an old cartridge of your dad talking, right? Just to hear their voice, to see their mannerisms, to just any of those pieces, I think can be so, so helpful for future generations. And the work that we are doing is timeless. And there is depth and beauty to that.
oh, definitely. But I think, we need to share our stories in whatever way we can,
Yes.
so they go on to for the next generation.
Yes.
Um,
So, in all the work that you've done as a teacher, you have had access to so many different books and different libraries in different languages. When you go to the library just to go peruse, or perhaps your library's on the phone, maybe on some kind of media, where do you find yourself? What kind of genre do you find as a writer that you enjoy that fills your heart?
I love going to libraries. Whenever I move to a new place, that's the first place I go is to the library. I love the smells. It depends what I'm interested in. Right now, I love reading children's stories just because you need to read what you write about.
Right.
Um, I like cozy mysteries. I don't enjoy scary books. And I
Mhm.
was reading in my diary, my 1972 diary, that someone loaned me a scary book, and I'm like, I'm not reading it. 'Cause, I don't like to fill my brain with. I don't watch scary things on TV either. So I
Mhm.
guess I like history. I like romance. I like decorating ideas. I love cookbooks. I just love books. I love the smell of books.
Yes.
And recently, in my diary from 1972, I was an avid reader as a teen. I mentioned books that I read. And so I've been getting some of those and rereading them because I don't remember all the details. And it's kind of fun to go back and see what you were interested at that time.
Yes.
So
Yes. Speaking of cookbooks, one of my favorite things, we have two complete shelves in the kitchen dedicated to it, and then there's a little spillover area. And I love being able to go back and find my mom's handwriting because she'll write little notes in there and that like the date that we used it for the first time. And if she's made any changes, like a little less salt or a little more paprika, whatever it happens to be, she puts those things in as well. And I find that just to be super, super fun on a rainy afternoon. Go
uh,
upstairs, go into the kitchen and find a cookbook to spend some time with.
I love to cozy up. And talking about your mom is a legend in my family. My boys absolutely love her cake. She
Yes,
makes a bundt cake, and they just think it's amazing.
it
But yeah,
is.
I love to sit down with a book. That's very relaxing for me, especially a cookbook, and to
Yes.
think of how you might want to change it or just leave it
Mhm,
how it is or try
mhm.
new things.
Yes. And I think also for me, there's this, when would I next use this recipe? So there's this, what's the audience going to be? Would we sit inside? Would we sit out on the screen porch? Is this a picnic kind of a thing? And I am somebody who, typically over the weekend will have a conversation with everybody in the house about what do you want to eat this week and kind of create that menu because I find it much easier for myself to know that we have that taken care of rather than at breakfast time, hey, what are we going to have for lunch today? And so if you haven't defrosted whatever it is that you need, maybe we're not having that for lunch today. But that also then helps me see that we're getting different kinds of protein, that we're getting some that's completely vegan or vegetable days, and then other days that we have different kinds of protein that we're mixing in, and not serving the same thing all of the time. And of course, we have family favorites, but to be finding other things and putting other pieces in there as well has been really helpful for me.
It is fun to try new things, and I'm really lucky. My husband will eat anything but fruit. I don't know what it is. I think it's the texture. I understand his grandfather was like that too, but he's willing to try anything, and I like to try new foods. I like to try to work with curry or Spanish spices, or try, well, just do experiments and see which ones I like. And I'm like you, I like to try new things each week, and it makes life easier. I remember when the kids were younger and I was working full time, my husband was working, I signed up for this. It's called flylady.net, and she encouraged you to, you could print out some of her menus, and she'd give you a menu for the whole week, and then it'd have a grocery list. So you just do a quick, and it made it so much easier. And there's a lot of things out there that you can do that with. If you don't want to plan it yourself.
So true. And I have a sister who is a registered dietitian, and one of her sons, as a gift, sent her a extended trial for food that comes proportioned in a box and ready at the front door. And she thought that it was such a great way of being introduced to new flavors and new foods. And we haven't tried that yet, but I do think that there is such a place for, if you want to have food that is fresh, if you don't mind, if being in the kitchen is something that you find to be at least somewhat enjoyable, if not incredibly enjoyable, to be able to use some of those pieces as well can be super helpful.
And they show you how to prepare the food, because it might be preparing a food you've never done, and they give you directions on how to do it. So
that's a great thing. We're going to take a quick break. We are going to be right back.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I am the founder and owner of Lamano Art. I began this business over 20 years ago. I specialize in paintings of all kinds. I make murals, portraits, and live paintings. My specialty is color and also telling a story. Some of the work that Lamano Art does are calligraphy pieces, wedding invitations, sign work, and sculptures like fairy doors. I'm open to working with anyone on any idea. Please feel free to contact me at your convenience, and I look so forward to talking to you. Thank you.
Do you feel like you've been having to work hard to be healthy? I have felt like this too. My name is Christy Jones, and I'm a holistic health and mindfulness coach and educator. And I have found some efficient and simple ways that we can really help maintain our health, even in challenging times. We know we are in a time where our food is nutrient lacking. We're not always getting the nutrients that we need from our food. We also know we're in a time of more toxicity than we even want to think about. Yet there are still things that we can do that help us to support our health and well-being. One of the things that I recommend for my clients and I use for myself to achieve that is a product called ASEA. Now, what I love about ASEA, gives our body exactly what it needs. Our body makes something called redox molecules. And redox molecules are our cell-to-cell communication. They help our cells to communicate, to know what to do in our body to achieve our optimal health. Now, when we do not have enough redox molecules in our body and our cells are not communicating, what do you think is going to happen? We may deal with some of the health challenges and the fatigue that many of us experience. However, when you have those molecules, you have enough redox molecules, you're setting yourself up for a foundation of health. So what is ASEA? ASEA provides our body with the exact redox molecules that many of us are lacking so that we can support our health and well-being.
In this beautiful conversation with Susan, I just want to take a moment to say that the artwork behind me was done by the artist Lamano Art. She is a mural artist out of Denver, and I have fallen in love with how she listens and then is able to produce the things using such an intensity of colors in such a beautiful way. And so as our conversation continues with Susan, I just want to share with you how good it is to be. Susan, I'm just so enjoying our time together. We have maybe about 6 or so minutes left. In this time, I would love for you to share some things that you are learning right now, things that you are relearning, things that you are processing through new eyes.
Oh, that's a hard question. I'm not really sure how to answer that. I'm learning lots of new things. I'm open to learning new things. I'm trying to learn how to knit, and it's not very easy. I'm left-handed, and I went to a group at the Cancer Support Center. There's and they're teaching me, but they're all right-handed, so that's hard. I'm also trying to learn German. I think that, and I love languages, and it is not coming easy for me. My first language was German, and I wish he had spoken to us and taught us, but he wanted us to be American. So I didn't. So I'm learning it now, and it's really fun. And I'm learning a little bit of Afrikaans. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And it's got a lot of Danish words, which I can pick out some of that which is related somewhat to German. So I guess I am trying to learn a lot, and I'm trying to, I'm in critique groups, trying to learn as much as I can about writing and improving my writing, because we all need to be open to improvement. My husband is a great, what do you call it? He's my copywriter. He's my grammar police. So he's really, he and my brother are my grammar police. So it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. As you are looking at where you are in this process of writing, if somebody else wanted to start writing or wanted to look at their writing differently, what advice would you give them?
I would say whatever genre you are wanting to write in, read as much as you can in that genre, take classes, because we all think, everybody thinks that they can write. I taught English for many years. But it's different.
It is.
Like children's books are very different. You're limited. You got to make room for pictures. You don't tell a story, that you need to let them feel the story. You need to learn all the ins and outs of writing, because writing is very different now than it was like 20 years ago or 50 years ago. Children's books, that's what I'm interested in, is children's books, very different now compared to what they used to be. Now, they want 500 words or less, and that's hard to get it contained to that. But I would say take classes. There's lots of online classes that you can take, or go to your university and take a class, and just keep doing it. Write every day.
Yes. And I love how you are sharing. Another person who's been on our show, Janice Hoffman, she is also consistently sharing, consistently posting. She uses Substack, I believe. And I think that that's another part of the writing, is to actually start sharing the stories, not just to be, creating this encyclopedia of stories that you have written for yourself. And there may be some stories that are just for the family or just for a particular audience. But I think that space of sharing is such a valuable one, because as others are reading it, it's impacting them and gifting them that space to be able to, in your way, write back to you or leave comments, right, as you were blogging.
It's very humbling to write, and it's embarrassing. You're putting yourself out there, and I'm sharing moments when I was, a stupid teenager, or had bad feelings and stuff. But some people it resonates with, and it helps them remember. But I'm embarrassed sometimes, especially about my grammar and the way I thought.
Mhm.
I think it's important to share, even if it doesn't put us in the best light. But and then I learn. I mean, it's embarrassing. Sometimes I have to relive an embarrassing moment that I had forgotten about and have to do it again. And
Yes.
that's okay. I'm an adult now, but
Mm.
it is hard to make yourself vulnerable and open.
Yeah.
And people see your flaws, which we all have,
Yes.
and it's all good.
Yes, it is. It is all good. Susan, I just so appreciate you blocking out the time before your international trip to come and just share with us where you are in the writing process, to give us advice, to talk about traveling, to talk about the importance of capturing stories, whether they are ours or somebody else's. The work that you are doing is powerful and profound, and I celebrate that you are doing it. And thank you so much again for taking time for Sarah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So as we wrap up our conversation for this week, I just want to tell you again that every single time that we get together is about gifting you with energetic tools. The tools today are about writing, about continuing to find those stories, and maybe choose to take a class to learn more about it. Maybe read some articles to get you going. But also inside of that, to know that it's not just for you, that you may feel like it's a little awkward or uncomfortable, but to allow your stories to be shared. Perhaps they are shorter stories, perhaps that they are ones that you choose to tell from a third person rather than first person. As you are in those places of writing, my sister told me years ago, you are a writer if you choose to write. And so you don't need to wait till a publishing company finds you and you're published. If you are writing, you are a writer. Have a phenomenal day, and you'll be together